Here's the thing that this might be a hot take for people, all right? People might not like my take on this.
Well, why you pouring me? I'm right.
Wait, let him cook.
What's going on, YouTube? Legend here once again. This time actually again with some more Genshin Impact, and I want to talk to you guys about Dehya. Yes, once again they're talking about Dehya. Why? Because I want to, of course. Dehya has been a pretty big deal, and with her being one of my favorite characters, you know, I've been paying a lot of attention to a lot of the buzz and talk that's going on about her, and lately she was actually trending the other day on Twitter, and she was trending because of the thing up there called Fix Dehya, the hashtag, and people have been coming up with different ideas of what they can do in order to be able to fix Dehya, you know, because even though I'm playing with her and I like her and I've been able to do fairly well with her before and after the constellations, but right now I have her C3, but I made sure I could beat her in Abyss and everything at C0. You know, there is room for improvement, you know, based on the investment that I put in her and the supports that I give her and things like that. You know, other units are just going to do better with the same support. So that's the thing, right? So she does have her few flaws, some things that seem like bugs, some things that just seem like a poor kit design, things like that. And I kind of just want to throw in my 2 cents and based on what people are saying and so on and so forth, especially when it comes to this list right here, because this is one has been spread quite a bit. And I want to talk about it a little bit and kind of give my thoughts on it. I don't agree with the whole thing. There's certain things that I would change differently, so on and so forth. There was like another page to this, but for some reason I can't find it anymore. But let's go through this list here. So first it says increase your skill hit rate once every second, similar to Ryder, right? So that you can burgeon effectively. I do agree with this one. I do think that she should proc her E faster and just have it apply pyro every other time. So still have the standard ICD on it, but let it proc faster. So when seeds are put into play, she can hit those faster. And with that, she would actually be a better burgeon procer than Toma would be, right? So then she would feel like a true 5-star unit in that sense when it comes to burgeon, right? Also too, I do think with that they need to fix her hitboxes too, because when she's fighting those rune sentinels and everything, or whatever you call them, their hitbox is too high and it hits top of when it misses the seeds, you know. So if they can just kind of fix that and have her hitbox go and make sure it hits lower on the enemies, then that would be great, you know. Then we'd be able to have better burgeons with her and things like that. I think that would be a great fix for her. You know, she doesn't have to apply pyro super quickly. She just needs to be able to do her pyro procs, you know, for the seeds. So I do agree with that one. I do like it. She doesn't even really need EM scaling like that, because like the damage on, when she's doing her burgeons, the damage on her actual E procs aren't that important. It'd be nice if she had EM scaling, but they actually might be asking for too much. Let's see, and the next one right here talks about increasing damage mitigation to 75% and reduce the cooldown of her self healing for 10 seconds. Now, granted, when they buffed Zhongli, right, they just went to town on him, right? But he was an Archon. It was a big deal. The pressure was on him in a sense, so I can understand why they just went to town with it. But the thing is, I do feel that at point it is too much asked for to buff her offensively and defensively. I think it's either just, you know, fix all the issues with her kit, like that seem to be mistakes, like her jumping, things like that. Those things should be fixed because they seem to almost be errors in a sense, or just nonsensical. When it comes to her actual kit itself, buffing her defensive capabilities and also trying to buff her offensive capabilities, I feel like that hasn't for too much. I think we got to go one way or the other, right? I think either we go the full defensive route and make her a better defensive unit, or leave her defensive capabilities how they are right now and make her burst worthwhile. I prefer the offensive way, or make her burst worthwhile, because I don't like the idea of just her burst just not being useful, you know? I want to use her in a sense where she's, in the future, I can use her with like a dual DPS or something like that. They might be able to do that in Fontaine or something like that. You know, kind of in a sense where she can, like, as if she's working side by side with Ayato or something, another character with a small DPS time window. I like the idea of that, right? So the first DPS can use her golden stance, and then she can take the field after that. This is just addressing, takes less damage, and also her cooldown for healing is lesser. So she doesn't, you know, die off field and stuff like that. Which is reasonable, But me personally, I mean, I feel if you build her defensively, I just don't, she just doesn't come close to really dying off field for me. I mean, but that's my personal experience, but that's all I can speak on is my personal experience. But even though it's possible for her to die off field, I just don't think that's a big problem for her that she's consistently doing. But, you know, it is what it is, you know. I mean, I tried her in, like, dungeons that had a lot of corrosion in it. So, you know, like constantly losing life, things like that. But it didn't, she didn't even come close to dying. So, but that's just my experience, of course, right? Now, also, when it comes to making her burst attacks into normal attack triggers, so she can work with Elan and Xingqiu and C6 Fischl and Beidou and so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing that this might be a hot take for people, right? People might not like my take on this. I do not want her to work with Elan, Xingqiu, Fischl, and Beidou and things like that.
Why you booing me? I'm right.
Wait. Let him cook.
I don't want her to do it, right? I mean, well Fischl and Beidou, I don't care that much, but Elan and Xingqiu, I don't, right? I love Elan, I love using her, stuff like that. Xingqiu's okay, I guess, you know. But, you know, of course, they're roughly pretty similar units right there. Right now, she is ignoring the fact that she is not doing enough damage, right now she is a unique character, right? And she's a pyro character that forces you to try and play pyro in different ways than the standard Xingqiu vaporize everything comps, right? It's just, you know, it's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over, right? Why get another pyro unit when you're just gonna play them just like the last pyro unit? It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you push for that? Why would you do that? You know, I mean, yeah, it's powerful, but we've already done it 3 times. All right, we have Diluc, Xingqiu or Elan, Hu Tao, Xingqiu or Elan, Yoimiya, Xingqiu or Elan. You know, like with Yoimiya, I was actually excited. Like, oh, maybe I can use her in Overload and make that work, like way back when she was coming new. And then, you know, she came and I was like, yeah, you should just use her to vaporize. That's what she works best with, right? And now we have somebody where I find Dehya is better with melt. You know, I like using Dehya with melt because she's not going to vape that many times, but if you use her with melt, she hits much harder, and it just makes it more worthwhile when she gets those big hits in, you know? So trying to come up with ways to get her to be able to melt, you know, I do like that, right? I'm just not focusing on having her work with Xingqiu and Elan and so on and so forth, right? You know, it works for me. And I want that to happen. I mean, people don't like that certain units aren't going to be compatible with others. Like, I was one of the people that didn't care that Raiden and Beidou didn't work together, because I do feel that if Hoyoverse, what they do is if they make characters that are good with all these other characters, with all the past characters, stuff like that, then it makes it hard to diversify certain characters, right? Like, why would I ever put anybody else in the team but Xingqiu or Elan if everybody's best with them, you know? So that's the thing when it comes to that. I don't like that. I don't want them to, like, I'm fine with the fact that she doesn't work with Elan or Xingqiu, things like that, because that way it allows you to be able to be more creative and use DPS of the same element in different ways. I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't want that changed. I want it to stay the same as how it is in terms of that. Now, increase her multipliers, right? Now, this one, I can't argue with this one. This one, I think, is the most important thing right here, because right now she has a high energy cost, right? Like she's not getting particles while she's on field like that. So the energy cost feels even higher, right? She has a 70 energy cost, but the fact of the matter is, it's not worth the payoff. She doesn't hit hard enough to validate her having that big burst. And I don't like that, you know, and nobody likes that. Her multipliers are just too low. It is what it is. If I got 4 seconds in order to deal damage with her, that 4 seconds is a small damage window, but if she's a support or a sub DPS, that is a large window, right? Like if she's gonna be on the field, she needs to earn that time on the field. And her multipliers being higher, it's a must. Like it just doesn't make sense that she would have such low multipliers, right? I mean with everything too, you know? Like even like let's say if you want to use her on the field even longer, and you want to use her with C6 Bennett, you know, her actual auto attack multipliers are low. I want her to increase her multipliers. I think that's one of the biggest things that's wrong with the kit. I actually feel that if they just increased her multipliers and did nothing else, I feel like people would be satisfied. A lot of people would be satisfied with that. I mean, granted, I do still want them to fix the bug type fixes and stuff like that with the jumping and so on and so forth. Targeting, that's a big one right there. But I do think that if they just fix the multipliers, a lot of people would be satisfied and they'd be good to go, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that they need to do. That's really like some of the main things that they did touch on when it comes to this here. So I agree with some, I don't agree with others. I mean, I do feel that when it comes to fixing her multipliers, I do think that, you know, they should up her HP scaling, because I think HP is going to be a big deal in Fontaine. So if they up her HP scaling, then she's going to be even more of a threat when HP may be able to get buffed in Fontaine, so on and so forth. And you don't need to have C1 in order to be able to take advantage of that. I mean, I do believe that she's on the standard banner, they might make it so like you're going to want the constellations and they're going to be more necessary than they would for limited units. But I do think that she should be a little bit more complete at C0. That's just my take when it comes to that. There needs to be some fixes with her. I mean, are they going to do it? Probably not, you know, which is sad. There's just not that much, you know, communication with Hoyoverse, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that they don't at least acknowledge the fact that people are complaining besides an automated customer service message, you know. That's some of the things that I do think they should fix. I mean, for me, I got her at C3. She's been doing a damn fine job. She's been, you know, beating down enemies, destroying the Abyss, you know, hanging with, you know, my other limited characters in terms of strength and stuff like that. But, you know, she's still towards the bottom of the list in terms of power, which is sad to see, you know. So yeah, so if they did that, I'd be happy about it. I'm sure a lot of people would be happy about it. I do believe she did pretty well in sales. So a lot of people would be good with this, you know. And I mean, it seems that China does like her too, so that's a good sign. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What are the things you think they should fix when it comes to Dehya that might not be listed here, that I might not have mentioned? What do you think of my take on when it comes to the Yelon and Xing Shou thing? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Or do you like, no, she needs to work with them or not? Let me know what you guys think. Like the video if you like the content, and subscribe to the channel if you want to get more videos like this. And with that, I'll end it there. Legend out.